Hmm. Hello, guys. Oh man, that light's so bright. But I think I need this light on so I can. Hmm, there's not much light where I'm at. Maybe I don't need this damn light. Let's turn it up. Okay. Well, I'm like pretty much blind. So, kind of want to talk about your magical trigger. And you may be wondering like, oh, what's your magical trigger and what's your you know like super consciousness and everything else, right? And so we tend in this type of reality that we live in, it's pretty much that a lot of people don't even have a clue about what's going on as far as magic is concerned, or their abilities, their psychic abilities, if you call those innate abilities, superpowers, things that they are born with. Extrasensory perception, clairvoyance, remote viewing, all straight up called adept type abilities that you naturally have. And we have the idea that most of these things are just pretty much is something that you would pretty much create into a Marvel comic type movie or a scene where it's just something that's just unreal and deem pretty much it's deemed or it's pretty much just saying that the idea, like the collective idea of is saying that your imagination is something of fiction or something that's not true. And I'm not even sure if fiction is a word to use, but just say something that's not true when we talk about the imagination and will of what we need to do as far as being a divine being and understanding those principles of the imagination and the will that we have and the thing that you need to do to harness that, to pretty much to be in alignment with your divine abilities and your psychic awareness and your magic, your what we call instant magic. It's like pretty much your psychic ability without bringing up candles, any type of ritual type tools or anything. Is to be in touch with these things is that you got to have some type of magical trigger. Not all the time. You don't always have to have it, but it's always good to have a magical trigger. And for me, I noticed that mine is pretty much just like staring into space and just focusing on one point in time. It kind of gets me in a state automatically to just really start to perform any type of instant type magical, even type of chant, anything, to get me started and start closing my eyes and meditate. Then I'm in the zone. Kind of like if you're in a video game and you're like on the last stage, or actually or you just get started. Let's say when you get started, you first start playing this game and then you pass the first level and then you pretty much get to the next level. Then you're like, oh, you're in this game. You might put it on pause or whatever, but you get back into it and you're just like straight up glued to the TV because you're just so into this game and beating this next level. And it's kind of like that same focus or awareness that you need when you're trying to be in a state of what we like to call the magical triggers, but it's pretty much your super consciousness or your super awareness. Um, and I really believe that if you infuse that with, a focus and you relax yourself, like your face muscles and yourself in meditation, you would start to get on that same brainwave, the theta brain, the theta brainwave pattern, right? I can't even talk today. Theta wave patterns, and your gamma wave patterns in your mind. And again, this is more like the scientific way of how your brain frequencies work, right? So you can get a awareness about what type of brainwave activity is going on in your mind during these altered states. And also, again, being able to visualize things like cleansing your chakras or visualization, creative visualization to actually do magic, working with the imagination and will to actually do what you need to do as far as being in tune with your abilities and understanding that this is not a Marvel comic movie or something like that. And this is real adept occult type talk for people who understand, magic and their psychic abilities, and they're tapping into those things to get back to who they really are. This super consciousness is your magical trigger to start getting into these states where you can start to raise your vibration and also cleanse the chakras areas to get yourself into different areas, like your soul body, getting those aligned and getting those cleared out during your chakra cleansing. But getting yourself in that magical state is probably the most powerful thing that you could do when you're getting ready to actually either talk to people or do anything that you're doing in this world and the other ones that you can actually use. Because I do talk about soul travel a lot. You know what I mean? It's something that a lot of people are not aware of how you can project your awareness. Because everybody talk about astral projection all the time. I'll usually talk about soul travel because it's something that a lot of people don't really like to focus on. And for a long time, I've been learning and practicing and experiencing soul travel, going through different types of dimensions and working on that. And also being able to either connect with somebody or do different types of adept things that I really don't even really share, you know what I mean? Because you can find this information, you may find it through Eckankar. If you Google up soul travel, you'll see everything about Eckankar, about how he made it as a religion, kind of like I think he did it with God and everything. But it's still soul travel. I think it's probably one of the most, as far as like astral projection and clairvoyance and everything else. I think it's one of those abilities where it may take you a while to master, but it's going to take you a while to change your paradigm, which is a group of all of your beliefs and deep rooted beliefs, deep rooted ideas and concepts about what you think life is. To It's going to take you a while for you to change that, to get your mind in tune with the whole soul travel idea and astral projection, being able to put yourself on different dimensions and astral planes so you can tap into your omniscience, being omniscient or omnipotent. And again, this is Godhood. This is something that I'm on the path to. So a lot of you people are probably on a different path or whatever, especially when it comes to like magic or anything. And we all know that term, left hand, right hand path. Like, what path are you really on? Are you on both paths or are you on one path? Again, I mean, as far as the right path, I think I've been on that path before, right? Right hand path, And when we talk about a right hand path, we're really talking about magic as a sense of praying to something else, that you're not God, but you're praying to just one God or something like that. And that's pretty much it. And then the left hand path is more about you finding out that you're God. And, I just got through doing this reading about myself, like, how far will me mastering my adepthood, how far would that get me with my spirituality? Like, how How far would that get me? And really interesting reading. And again, it's just more learning. It's more seeking more control and having more methods of learning of how to do certain things. So I'm pretty much seeking the knowledge even more on different planes. So it's a never ending process. And I also see things about money and wealth and even create a different path. But right now I'm in a sense of pretty much of solitude, of pretty much looking within myself, of learning more and more things about spirituality, occult, and also learning pretty much anything that comes to my awareness, but mainly about deep knowledge, deep spiritual knowledge. And again, people like, oh, you still like business? You like marketing? I still like those things too. And, I still learn about marketing, things like that too, because business and entrepreneurship is something that I've always loved to do. But again, when you're awakened, you really tend to go into the spiritual practices and learn these other things too, because a lot of these things that you learn about in this reality, as far as, like um, marketing, say for instance, you understand it's more psychology of understanding people, and it's more, it's really more spiritual. It may have it down to science, but it's all about persuasion and things like that, right? That's why I studied neurological programming, and a lot of people just don't study that. When they talk about sales, they go buy some type of sales course, what I mean? And people sell these courses based on these principles that I'm pretty much convinced that neurological programming is probably the only thing you need to learn when it comes to sales or anything as far as marketing. But when blend the knowledge of everything and start mixing it with your neurological programming, mixing it with spirituality, because spirituality is kind of like a host for everything that's being created, right? And understanding marketing, everything else. But the spirituality is kind of hard to discern that, because people just made up these systems, right? And everything is a system. Even magic has a system, and everything has a system. It's just easy for people to digest these systems. But when you're living in a state of, and you have that magical, I'm talking about magical trigger. I don't want to go off the subject, but when you have that magical trigger and you're omniscient, and you have a certain awareness that is just far beyond what this reality is, it's really easy for you to tap into all knowledges of everything. And that's really what I'm talking about with this super consciousness and magical trigger that you have, because everybody can induce these states. And when you do these states, it's kind of like, I want to learn this, I want to do this, do that, I want to learn this. And in the new age community, I just had a download. And the download is kind of like, well, I had a download of information that came from the sun's light codes, or I had a download that came from projecting my awareness to the book of Sky records, or I had a download from a being that gave me some information on a telepathic level. Those type of downloads, or just you being really in touch with your higher selves for so long that you pretty much sense something out of thin air, right? Pretty much. That's how it is, because you're tapping into everything. But again, this is still like something that's just totally off the Richter scale for some people, because they think that this is like some BS I'm talking. Like I'm just one of those conscious dudes trying to get people to believe me, and trying to get people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, or trying to do everything. Like, I could really care less if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I could really care less if you don't follow me as a spiritual teacher, or as who I am, because who I am is pretty much undefined, you know. And I don't really attach myself to all of these things that are going on in this dimension, or pretty much any other dimension, because I know what I am, and what I am is what I am. And with that type of paradigm, it's again, you start to see your reality change. And again, it's really powerful. So my message for you guys today is to start focusing on a magical trigger to get yourself in these states. And again, once you get yourself into that super consciousness, it's easier for you to focus on anything, your homework, your your essay, or whatever you got going. You'll see that that awareness will break through any type of struggle that you have in your life. It doesn't even matter. And I'm not preaching to you. I'm letting you know that I'm living proof of that. There's a lot of things that I went through in my life as far as homelessness and everything else. And I'm telling you what, I'm at a point in my life now that I'm really getting the truth about everything for myself, about what's going on, how I'm doing it, what's going on with what I want to manifest, how I want to create it. I'm creating things. I'm in a never ending state of creation just because that I'm tapping into that super conscious awareness, right? That everybody can have and possess, or that they possess. So, again, that magical trigger is something that anybody can tap into because really, you know, I mean, we all are divine beings. We need to stop with all the racism and all the, you know, the melanated ones and all of this stuff. You know, I mean, all of these things is, again, it's all of these things are meant to separate, conquer, and divide, right? But this dimension just came so separated to the point where it's like you always have to have your tribe. You can never be. It's almost like you can never be the one that can just bring everybody together because everybody wants to just be so divided. They done made that they pretty much injected that into your programming, that everybody's separate. Separate from race, separate from gender, whatever, right? And pretty much you being a god or a divine being that doesn't have any type of separation, doesn't really see anything else like that. It doesn't see color, doesn't see race, just sees yourself as a divine being. You're not attached to anything. You're not pretty much indulging yourself on TV. You're not really indulging yourself in certain things. You've been detached from reality so much that every time you go back into that awareness, it's kind of, it just doesn't really suit with you. But you raise your awareness, and it's easier for you to pretty much shapeshift yourself back into this reality because you already understand the paradigm that everybody come across. It's again, it's a different type of awareness, and for some people think that, well, he's just talking like he's high and mighty. Because I done got around people who feel like this guy think he's so spiritual, and you know, so he just, you know, he thinks he, you know, I mean, they get like that because being in this type of awareness, it creates the perception of ego. Because again, a lot of people are living in a sense of ego identification, and I already made a video about that. You know what I mean? Like, again, ego identification is a way for people to identify themselves in this dimension and to something, to relate themselves to an idea of what they want to be, when they're not understanding that they can be all things, right? You can be all things. But again, people look at their skin, they look at what's going on, they look at their car, look at their thing, they associate their ego identifications with material things, or they associate their ego identification with, you know, what tribe they come from, or what street or what block they live in, what street, you know what I mean? And again, it's just, I kind of feel like it's not a magical trigger, but I kind of feel like it is a magical trigger. Again, I think it's a trigger in your subconscious for a lot of people to feel like they need to be part of something, or, you know what I mean, or associated with something. Because again, that's one of those subconscious desires that people want, that they want to be part of something. But again, who even said that that was some type of subconscious trigger? You know what I mean? I want to be part of something. I want to be like, for me, I remember that sometimes, I just want to be recognized at work. I want to be recognized for my knowledge, for my skill. But I noticed that that's not what the case is when you go to a job and you work a 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying. You're not recognized for your skill. You pretty much recognize if they like you or not, if they have a lot of favoritism towards you. And some places may not be this way. I'm not talking for all places. Some of these places are based on your performance, or are based on your things like that. But they know how to, again, manipulate the system or persuade the system to make it look like something that it's not. And again, I'm telling you about this reality is based on that principle. That principle. So when you understand and have this awareness, super awareness, you're going to be able to see through those things really, really quickly, because that super consciousness is going to help you be aware, and a magical trigger that you have is going to let you know that once you're ready to do what you need to do, create what you want to manifest, extract your idea and bring it down, the spirit down into matter, you're going to pretty much, you're going to dominate. It doesn't matter what happens. Even if it's something where it's not really going in your favor, you already know what you can do, and you don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You don't need to ego identify, to solidify, right? I like the way that sounds. But it's the truth though. So pretty much for some people, I guess, to bring it down into layman's terms and bring it down on a very, 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 very level where it's kind of like, so I really don't understand what you're saying, and under somebody who's like really trying to understand what I'm telling them right now about your magical trigger and your super consciousness. Again, like, first off, you have this identification about yourself of understand this is me, and I grew up and I did this. My mom told me to do this, told me to do that. And since you're like that, and since you have this identification about who you are, it's hard for you to understand. And so I need to paint a visual picture of what I'm trying to say, and I need to paint a auditory type picture. Stomach's growling. I gotta get something to eat, and then I have to just paint. I just want to do the visual because a lot of people can relate to what's visual. So if you can imagine one, what I'm saying is that if you can imagine yourself being somebody that's a god, right? And imagine the other person, yourself, being just a normal average being, right? So say if you just totally deleted the average person, and deleting the average person means that you can fly around, you can pretty much move objects with your hand, and you can, again, that's the paradigm I'm talking about here. And the magical trigger that I'm talking about is you're having a trigger or some type of anchor to get you to that point. And the first part of getting to that point is erasing that other person, the average person. Average person, that's your paradigm. That's your paradigm that you're using and getting into the next one, right? Now, you may have struggles getting to point A to point B. And the reason why you have point A to point B is because a lot of the inputs and all of the information and media that you're receiving is that you're distracted by just normal average things. And that's what's keeping you in that same paradigm. You're not ready to let that ego identification go. Now, is ego identification with the other person, the God? No. It's pretty much saying that ego identification doesn't exist here in this format. And having the magical trigger, when talking about magical trigger, you as that other paradigm, the normal person in that area, is the magical trigger is like something like a magical trigger. So I have to like, pray, or I have to, um, have to like really meditate for a long time and I can't focus. I mean, it's the magical trigger doesn't work in that paradigm, doesn't work in that field of awareness because it's too pretty much it's too normalized. It's too on the scale of just everyday reality, right? Until you change the paradigm and then you apply the magical trigger to that other state. The magical trigger is going to get you to that other state by changing the paradigm once you're really focusing. When you're really focused within on how to get yourself in that magical state. And then once you're in that magical state, you're tapping in, you're merging your consciousness and your awareness together. Then that human aspect, that reality and all that stuff starts to erase and dim out a little bit. And then you're starting to be more connected with your higher self and understanding that that's pretty much the state that you can be in 24/7, or you can embody those all the time. I'm telling you, that magical trigger is where your awareness starts to expand. Pretty much like sunlight just shining over everything. And you're starting to help everything grow at the same time. The plant is absorbing your sun rays wherever you're at, and you're absorbing everything too at the same time. Information, downloads, things like that. That's the part of being omniscient and omnipresent, right? Or omniscient. Omniscient is omnipotent. You know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, Google that up. And tapping into that divine intelligence of everything. So you can extract the information and awareness so you can have sharper senses, better sharp psychic abilities. All of these things start to become more apparent. You're able to increase your frequency a little bit more. You're able to focus and visualize a little bit more by raising, maybe your kundalini, or pretty much cleansing out your chakras and raising kundalini, or serpent energy. It's energy that flows to help you trigger more, activation centers for, pretty much helping yourself get ready for having a deeper experience with your spiritual abilities. Again, that magical trigger is a good way, or we say good anchor to do all of these things. So I hope that makes sense for people who didn't really understand the first part of what I was saying, because again, I know, like neurological programming, I know people talk from different modalities, right? Different types of ways people learn. So again, I gotta go because my stomach's growling. I gotta get me some food. And I hope you guys have a good Friday. And make sure, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to Periscope. I love Periscope, but I'm about to start doing more on YouTube as well. So I guess I gotta fix these thumbnails too, because I don't really like them. So, but other than that, I just want to get the message out there. And so you guys have a safe Friday. Keep meditating, keep learning, keep growing, keep learning, and don't keep yourself distracted by your distractions, the rightful distractions. And if you want to do something and you want to change, all you have to do is take one person, the person that you want to be, and the person you are now, and start erasing the person, because if you keep going back in the person who you are right now, and it's just not working for you, and you never tried that person you really want to be, or you really feel that you are, and you just keep going back in the same habits, and you're not breaking these habits, then you really need to kick yourself. That's just telling yourself, you're pretty much shooting a signal out to the universe telling yourself that you just want to be the same person. And it's pretty much you're living a lie to yourself because you're your own enemy. So, again, I got to go get something to eat, but make sure you follow me on Periscope. Find me at Arnon Widget. Make sure you find me on Instagram at Enlightened Networker. And again, I'm still dealing with Bluehost with the blog. They still haven't put it up there, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. So, but I'm going to keep live streaming. But I will see you guys on Periscope on Sunday, and I believe I'll see you guys back here on Sunday too, just to continue the conversation. Well, probably not this weekend. I'll probably show like just the whole replay here on YouTube, because usually what I do. And then, on Facebook, inside Enlightened Networker group, I'm going to go live since I didn't go live a couple times. It's just been so busy. And again, there's a lot of books for you guys to read on the occult, types of information that you guys can have. Again, if you're somebody who wants to like start your own spiritual brand and want to make money, make sure you contact me. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking for people like me too. But if I can't find people like me, then I just can't find people like me. I'm cool with both sides. But I'm not like this person who's dying to have a group of people or have all these. It doesn't really matter to me, right? But I love people though. I really love everybody. So again, my name is Hernan Widget. I gotta go get something to eat. Talk to you guys later. And the person in the future that's watching this, make sure you share this with people. Share this with anybody you know. And tell them to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Periscope and Instagram. Talk to you guys later.